Hi, good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to ask everyone who joins us if you could please share this with the various social media platforms that you're on, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, to name a few. We'd appreciate it. We'll reach a lot more people. There are serious problems going on right now in the Jewish world, in the Jewish community. In Israel today, there was a horrific terrorist attack, two major attacks. A Canadian Jewish teenager was murdered in a bus bombing today, explosives that went off at a bus stop. This is horrific. Terrorist organizations are celebrating this. I want to put this in a context so people could understand. There's been a movement to desensitize any kind of feelings, good feelings people would have towards Jews or the state of Israel. The BDS and radical Islamic organizations have been working 24/7 to change the perception of the reality of what goes on in the Middle East and in Israel. Let me give you an example. On the program, The View, with Whoopi Goldberg. Now, she made horrible comments a few months ago regarding the Holocaust, regarding what Jews went through. She considered it to have nothing to do with racism. There was outrage in the Jewish community as a result. Well, again, on The View, Whoopi Goldberg was talking about Hamas and the Taliban and making a comparison between Hamas and the Taliban with the state of Israel. Can you believe this? A murderous terrorist organization, Hamas, whose goal is to eradicate the state of Israel and kill all Jews in the world, she makes this comparison with the state of Israel. And no repercussions. I'm sure everyone is familiar with Kyle Irving. He's been reinstated to play basketball. He tweeted out a book and a video that was grossly anti-Semitic. Praises Hitler in the video. The result? Anti-Semites feel that they've been given a pass to say whatever they want and to go on a campaign of attacking Jews. There's even a video outside the Barclays Center in the United States of a group called the Black Hebrews gathering. Hundreds and hundreds of them gathering outside, chanting against Jews. Anti-Semitism in the open. There's an organization also. There's an organization called Breaking the Silence. Here we go. Here's the video of the Black Hebrews at the Barclays Center.
Some of us used to be in the club.
As I was saying, there's this organization, Breaking the Silence. Breaking the Silence is funded in large measure from European NGO BDS organizations. They're giving money to Breaking the Silence, to defame Israel, to say Israel is not justified in defending itself, to use the terms occupied Palestinian territory. In other words, they transform Hamas and the Islamic Jihad terrorists into freedom fighters. And therefore, the attack that just happened in Jerusalem, they blame Israel for it. They blame the Jewish people for it. Well, last night, they had an event in Toronto in the Holy Blossom Temple. That's the largest Reform temple in Canada. They had an event there, and it was packed. The Holy Blossom Temple actually facilitated the event for Breaking the Silence, the BDS Breaking the Silence, and they had a packed event at the Holy Blossom Temple. Now, the rabbi of the Holy Blossom Temple, she sent me an email. She said, look, we're just renting out the facility to this organization. That's all. We're not endorsing the program. No. If there's no red lines, then in effect, you are endorsing the program. You didn't have to allow it to be used for that purpose. That's what they did. There's the picture. Put together by the organization that sponsored the event. It's called the New Israel Fund of Canada. They brought the Breaking the Silence in. And the New Israel Fund of Canada, they reject the AREYEH definition of anti-Semitism. So when there's no definition of anti-Semitism, it's open season on the Jewish people. There's been another event also over the weekend, came to light. There's a politician. He's a member of the NDP, Ontario NDP. And he's in fact in the caucus of the NDP. He makes decisions for the Ontario NDP. He's been canvassing. He's in Ottawa Centre. He's been canvassing to get more support. And he was saying in an interview that when it comes to members of the Jewish community, he wears his BDS button, make sure they see it. He says, "Free Palestine from the river to the sea." He smiles at these members of the Jewish community. And he says, "Let's sit down and discuss how Israel needs to be dismantled. Can you pour me a cup of coffee?" It's outrageous. A couple of years ago, he was exposed for showing support for the PFLP, Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, an organization that is designated by the government of Canada as a terrorist organization. He was advocating for one of their leaders. I sent a letter to the current Ontario Solicitor General, the Honorable Michael Kersner. I sent a letter to him just a few days ago. Let me read you the letter. It has come to my attention that Ottawa Centre MPP, member of the Provincial Parliment, Joe Harden, is targeting the Jewish community with anti-Semitism. 1. Ottawa Centre MPP Joe Harden says, quote, "Left politicians," and the quote, "have an obligation to challenge Jews on Israel," saying he's asked Jewish neighbors questions like, "How much longer should we put up with this?" 2. Harden also rationalizes the anti-Semitic remarks, quote, "I can understand from the Palestinian standpoint how like the barbarity and scale of viciousness can lead someone to strike out with intemperate, hateful language because of that real hurt where people are at. You know, saying things like the effing Jews, and even worse, he can understand that." 3. Harden pats himself on the back for his moral courage in holding his Jewish neighbors accountable for the actions of Israel. 4. Joel Harden says, "I have asked many questions of Jewish neighbors here about how much longer we should put up with this. Because if I were to name the single greatest threat the single greatest origin of violence in the Middle East, it is unquestionably Israel. Now, there's no mention of what goes on in Iraq. There's no mention what goes on in Syria. Does anyone know what happened in Syria? Using chemical weapons against people, civilians, or in Yemen, across the Middle East, the atrocities that goes on. But Joel Harden, the greatest threat, the greatest origin of violence in the Middle East is unquestionably Israel. He goes around to Jews in Ottawa, and that's what he says, with a smile on his face. He thinks that's decent. I go on in my letter to the Solicitor General. This is the link to the disturbing video of MPP Harden. I give him the link. Then I asked, I said, I'm asking you to first investigate this MPP for hate crimes and also to force him out of Queen's Park, out of the Ontario Provincial Legislature. I want him out. I signed it. Thank you very much, Meir Weinstein. I haven't heard back from the Solicitor General. Now, this story has been picked up in the media, and he has not been tossed out of the caucus from the NDP or even tossed out at all by the NDP. The leader of the NDP did put out a statement that he was upset about the comments, and that's it. We have one of the leaders of the BDS who targets the Jewish community, and I guess gets encouragement from Joel Harden. He just posted a picture of himself having a meeting, having lunch with the mayor of Windsor, wearing Khomeini paraphernalia, proudly. Pictures of Khomeini with the mayor of Windsor, and the mayor of Windsor is smiling. What's the chant in Iran from Khomeini? Death to Israel, as they burn Israeli flags and step on them and talk about wanting to produce nuclear bombs so they could destroy Israel and murder every single Jew in Israel. The mayor of Windsor takes a photo, has lunch with such a person. Nothing's hidden anymore. Possibly we could show the video of Whoopi Goldberg. I think it's very shocking, very telling for our audience. We could just show that short clip. It's very revealing because she made it clear a number of months ago she's a friend of the Jewish community. And if she's such a friend of the Jewish community, then why is she saying Israel is on the same level as Hamas? That's what the video is about. Do we have this video here?
We do. I'm queuing it up as you speak.
Thank you very much.
Keep chatting and we'll have it on in about 20 seconds.
Again, with the Jerusalem attack, BDS groups and BDS leaders in Canada and the United States throughout the world, they're celebrating it. They're celebrating it, and they're lashing out at politicians who have been condemning it. They think it's a great thing that Jews were murdered in Jerusalem.
Okay, here comes that video there. Here we go. Quick little intro to it.
That comment all about the Benjamins comment, and then Nancy Pelosi pulled her, coattail and said, let me tell you something, that's something that you're going to apologize for. And we've never heard her say anything like that again.
Remember, she's saying we never heard her say anything like that again.
We've never heard her say anything like that again.
And she said it again.
Right.
Now for the reality. Shortly after apologizing for her first tweet, where she's credited with never saying anything anti-Semitic again, she goes and sends out another trope. Again, to say, she says specifically, written, I want to talk about the political influence in this country that says it is okay for people to push for allegiance to a foreign country. And again, she was speaking specifically in context about American Jews. So much for her, Ilhan Omar, being quiet after her first tweet, which she gave a pseudo apology for. While we're talking about you, this is the first news. You'll remember Whoopi Goldberg, who said that the Holocaust was not about race. What was it about then? Hitler called us an inferior race. He wanted to make the superior race. So how was the Holocaust not about race? And speaking of race, in the 1933 Olympics in Germany, when the black guys beat the German guys, it was also about race. Whoopi, take it away momentarily. So what she says is debatable whether Hamas and the Taliban are terrorist communities.
One thing that Representative Ilhan Omar said that did bother me in 2021 was she tweeted something comparing the U.S., Israel, Hamas, and the Taliban as all terrorist organizations.
Let's clarify that.
Being on a foreign committee and comparing the country to a terrorist.
So she's on, Ilhan Omar, on the foreign committee, and she's comparing the U.S. and Israel to terrorist organizations. So what does Whoopi have to say?
Known terror, those are organized terrorist communities, that, not Israel, but Hamas and the Taliban. That
depends on who you talk to.
So Whoopi Goldberg's opinion is that Israel and the United States may be terrorist organizations, and Hamas and Taliban may not be terrorist organizations. So let's hear Whoopi's ingenious quote one more time regarding terrorist organizations. Whoopi, take it away.
Depends on who you talk to.
Let's hear it again.
Depends on who you talk to.
Okay, that's enough out of Whoopi. Jason Rickman, who's a journalist who's contributor to the Washington Examiner, Weekly Standard, Daily Caller. I won't read them all out because you could read them yourselves. But he then backlashed at Whoopi's commentary and at The View in general. What he says is, Whoopi, it's indisputable that Hamas is a terrorist organization. In fact, he further goes on to define it based on the fact that the United States listed a terrorist organization. And to Sarah Hines, it doesn't take an expert to know that there is no moral equivalent between the U.S., Israel, and Hamas-Taliban, blasting MTG's behavior, but giving a pass to Ilhan Omar. That is a problem. Thank you, Jackson Rickman, for your commentary. We appreciate it. Meir, back to you.
Okay. One more point about the terrorist attack that just happened today in Jerusalem is that terror organizations throughout Judea and Samaria and Gaza, they're hailing this, they're praising this, they're worshiping this, they're celebrating this, and they're calling this the start of the Palestinian World Cup. In fact, a BBC broadcaster, Abdel Bari Atwan, he called this the start of the Palestinian World Cup. Can you believe this? On the BBC. They did not fire him. They did not get rid of him. This is not the first time he made serious, outrageous anti-Semitic remarks, pro-terror remarks, but he's with the BBC and he's allowed to continue. Look, here's my message.
Behind you can see the
Go ahead.
exact site. See where the steel fence there is sort of tented outwards from the force of the blast, and the cracked masonry underneath. That's where the bag full of explosives was placed. The exact nature of that explosive is still unknown, but you see the security forces right there. They're collecting evidence. They're taking chunks of the masonry, chunks of the broken stone and steel, and they're sweeping around with magnets to get all the shrapnel. From there, they're attempting to get an idea of the explosive residue that was used in the attack itself. Now, you saw some of the videos involved of the attack. You see a large cloud of white smoke. The white smoke is a tell sign of an inefficient or improvised explosive device. It means that there's a significant amount of unburned and unreacted materials involved, almost certainly a nitrate-based compound derived from dual-use fertilizers or other industrial or agricultural mixtures. Now, if they can determine exactly what that mixture is, given the evidence that they are collecting right now, they can start looking for the possible sources of the compound's constituent components. Once they have that, they can start a wave of arrests and questioning, and from there attempt to figure out exactly who bought what and where, what was moved around, and if they can do that, they can start to reveal contacts that might be involved in the network. And that network is of critical importance here, because what's very interesting is Islamic Jihad, Hamas, Lion's Den, none of them have claimed responsibility. We saw Hamas come out and show support for the attack, but they did not claim responsibility, which means that there is a possibility of a new group acting. Given that there were multiple explosive devices placed, remotely detonated in multiple locations, close enough to simultaneously for government work, honestly speaking, then it shows that there is a large-scale network, and it's a coordinated one, and that's a thorn in Israel's side if they don't know who it is.
We should overreflect. AREYEH SHECHOPEK, a 16-year-old Canadian yeshiva student, the victim of today's terror attack in Jerusalem. May his memory be for a blessing. I remember when I went to yeshiva in Israel in 1980. One day I was on a bus in Jerusalem. It was a pretty crowded bus. All of a sudden, somebody spotted a bag that was unattended to, and it looked like there was a wire sticking out of it, or a few wires. There were screams on the bus. I never saw eyes of terror like that before in my life. Bus came to a screeching halt. Everybody just jumped off the bus. Bomb squad came. Nothing happened, thank God. But that's how on edge it is in Israel, because they have gone through this. During the second Intifada, there were pizza parlors blown up. When you go out for lunch with your friends to enjoy a slice of pizza, a bomb goes off and murders Jews. The culprit of the Sbarro pizza attack during the second Intifada, she lives in Jordan. She gives interviews. She's overjoyed with what she did. There are Jews who were murdered in that attack that were American citizens. The United States has not taken action against the terrorists that lives in Jordan. For that matter, Israel hasn't either. They can go into Jordan and grab her. There's been new elections in Israel. We'll see what kind of government is formed. We'll see if the policy is going to change of deterrence. But I still see same policy of allowing people from Judea and Samaria in these Arab communities that have celebrations whenever there's a terrorist attack being given work permits to come into Israel to work. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. There's members of the Knesset. Not a lot of them, but there are some members of the Knesset who make outrageous statements and call for the end of the Jewish state and justify the terror attack that just happened in Jerusalem. There's problems in the Jewish community. Like I said earlier in the show, the meeting hosted at the Holy Blossom of the BDS Breaking the Silence. And they work with various BDS organizations that call for the end of the Jewish state, that promote the Intifada. They work with them. The fact that the Holy Blossom would host such an event and that it would be a packed house, a full house, is something we have to reflect on deeply. The attitude of Jews in Israel is a lot different than the attitude of Jews in North America. The attitude of the Jews in North America has been on a descent in great measure because of the level of assimilation that's going on, intermarriage, and lack of commitment to Judaism. In Israel, it's the exact opposite. There's a feeling of belonging to the Jewish people. There's a stronger commitment to the values of Judaism. Jews go into the army willingly, defending the right of Israel to exist as a Jewish state. Jews are proud of being Jews in Israel. The future for the Jewish people is Israel. Shame on the Holy Blossom for hosting the BDS Breaking the Silence. And don't split words or anything to say, well, they say they're against the BDS. They march together with BDS organizations. They work with BDS groups that promote the Intifada. They're against Israel as a Jewish state. The organization that brought them here, I said it before, the New Israel Fund of Canada, rejects the AREYEH definition of anti-Semitism. Any Jewish group, any Jew who rejects the AREYEH definition of anti-Semitism and justifies Hamas, Hezbollah, all the terror groups, has crossed the red line. Joel Harden from the NDP is reaching out to BDS Jews to give them cover. Say, you see, I know Jews. There are Jews who support me. That's what he says. And that the leadership of the NDP would take that as something credible, again, as a message to Canadian Jews. Jews have to strengthen their relationship with Israel, whether it means having dual citizenship, whether it means spending more time in Israel, going there for travel on your vacations instead of going somewhere else. We have to raise the bar of our commitment to Israel. One more question. With the terror attack that occurred, when is there going to be a mass meeting in Toronto, other cities where there are Jewish communities, or in the United States, a mass memorial by the major Jewish organizations for what just happened, this terror attack? When's it going to happen? Where are the statements from our rabbis? Are they hiding? Are they afraid? Now is not the time to be afraid. You're here once. You have to make your life count. You either want to hide and act like a coward and look down, or you have to take a stand. Our forefathers in the Torah, they took a stand. That's Judaism. Whatever the cost. Don't do like the Holy Blossom. Don't behave like them. Stand up proud for being Jewish. Stand up for the state of Israel. Stand up for the one Jewish state that exists in the world. Stand up for Judaism, whatever the consequences. Now's the time. Jewish blood is not cheap. That's what the haters want us to believe. No. Stand up. I want to thank everyone for joining us. Please share this on your various social media platforms. We have a lot of work to do. I just laid out a few examples of vicious anti-Semitism going on and how it's being normalized. There's a lot more we could have discussed, but I'm not going to throw every single fact. And that'll be for another program. Thank you very much. Signing off. Shalom, shalom.
I just want to quickly close with a quote, which we all are familiar with, but I prefer a powerful and proud Jewish state that is hated by the entire world than an Auschwitz that is loved by one and all. We finally have a government that we expect them to stand up for what's right. We're going to close with Hatikva, and please do share this because this video will be available on our YouTube station, on our Facebook pages, as well as at our website, israelnow.ca. Not only is this video available, but all prior podcasts are available also. We're going to close it out with Hatikva, and we look forward to seeing you all again soon. Thank you for all who chatted and sent in their comments. Sorry I didn't have time to put them all on the screen, but we appreciate them.
יהודי הומייה ולפתן מזרח קדימה עין לציון צופיה עוד לא אבדה תקוותנו שנות אלפיים להיות עם חופשי בארצנו ארץ ציון ירושלים להיות עם חופשי בארצנו ארץ ציון Shalom aleinu ve'al kol